We're getting into another conversation this hour, and we have already this morning been joined by the Principal Secretary of State Department for Irrigation, CPA Ephantus Kimotho. Good morning, PS.
Yeah, morning. I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you here again.
Yeah, thank you.
Karibu sana, thank you for being here today. So, PS, normally CT Muga would be here, but he's a bit under the weather today. So he's left me with proverb. And this week, CT decided to go to Uganda.
Wow.
Did you know that Uganda has the most lakes in Africa?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Actually, River Nile mainly depends on the lakes, the rivers from Uganda.
There you go. And you're an irrigation man, so obviously,
yeah,
you know what we're talking about. So let me share today's proverb. Then you tell me what you think about it and how you would interpret that. Right? No matter how powerful you are, you can never make rain only fall over your house. No matter how powerful you are, you can never make rain only fall over your house.
I'll take a turn on that. I think I'll put it this way. No matter how much you have, you can't do it by yourself. You need people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You're never fully in control, isn't it?
Yeah.
You always need somebody. All right. So we're talking matters irrigation this morning, PS. So we've had conversations before in terms of what the needs are in Kenya. And you did say that there is a plan. So we wanted to look into that a little bit this morning. What is the irrigation plan? And where is it now in terms of implementation? And what do we hope it would achieve for Kenya?
Yeah, thank you for that. Probably I would, if you allow me, maybe I could just start by giving you the reason why irrigation, that we say now, then we dive into the plan. Currently, in the country, when it comes to matters agriculture, we are, agriculture is contributing to almost 33% of the GDP. And then also agriculture indirectly through the input value chain and the output value chain. That's now you're talking about people supplying fertilizer, seeds, the output value chain, things like manufacturing, that contributes another 27%. But the biggest risk to all this has been the issue of drought. And as you know, in Kenya, the last 10, it's almost becoming a routine. Like every 10 years, you have a major drought. Then every 4 years, we have a moderate drought. So because of that becomes the biggest risk. And because of that now, irrigation comes in as a solution towards that. So irrigation is basically whereby we just store water, we harvest and store water so that we can use it during the dry season. And towards that extent, currently, when the current administration took over, we were at 664,000 acres in terms of the acreage under irrigation. By June last year, we were at 733. So meaning so far we've been able to put 69,000 acres under irrigation. So in our plan is to take up that 733 to 1.2 million by 2027, and later push that 1.2 to 1.8 by 2032. So that's basically the plan. And towards achieving that, we've come up with several investment pathways, which are mainly formed by land tenure and also the form of water security. So we have the large scale commercial farmers. I think last time I was here, we touched a little bit on Galana. That's one of the projects that we are saying commercial large farmers. Then we have the community irrigation schemes. This is where you have the smallholder farmers. And we have, we're also focusing a lot on the northeastern part of the country. That's a semi-arid ASAL area, where mainly, production mainly has been happening in the 20%, the arable land. And also there's also another, apart from the issue of drought, there's another challenge of population increase, land fragmentation. So that's why the focus on ASAL also is now a main thing in this current administration. That's the other large part. Then, of course, you also have the old public schemes, which some of them have been having challenges of being run because of issues of diesel and what have you. But that again is another pathway we are looking at. And finally, also we have the fleet. Fleet is now the farmer-led irrigation. This is whereby people who are doing at an individual level in their own farms. So that's basically the plan in a nutshell to add to get up actually to the 1.8 million acres.
Yeah. All right. Now, when we talk about irrigation in the country, what comes to mind is matters to do with food security. And we know matters to do with food security in the country has been a concern because, we just from suffering the worst drought in over 40 years, and then immediately after that there was floods, and that comes to address matters to do with food security. So in terms of irrigation to solve that, just how critical is it? Because we know in this country we mostly depend on rain-fed agriculture, but as you say, every 10 years there is major drought. So in terms of having irrigation to address food insecurity in the country, how critical is that?
Yeah, thanks for that. So currently, it's true. We've been importing quite a number of food products. A good example is rice. We are currently importing over 700,000 metric tons of rice. We've been producing since before the administration took over. The current administration took over. We were producing 102,000 metric tons. Just because of enhancing irrigation. We've now been able to increase that to 234,000 metric tons. And we are still putting more plans towards that. And this is now geared towards the storage. Irrigation mainly focuses more on storage of water. So as we store more water, like we have quite a number of dams which are in the pipeline. And through that, we'll be able to store more water. As we store more water, because also we have a plan of storage, as we store more water, we'll be able to increase the area under irrigation, and that by itself will also help us now be able to address the issue of food deficit. And in particular, if I mention just about rice in detail, you see 1 acre alone in 1 year. I'll give you a good example in a place like Moya, where we all know we've been doing production of rice. Moya before had a coverage of around 25,000 acres, and they only used to do one crop. But after construction of Vimba Dam, which was just completed 1.5 years ago, now on the 25,000 acres, you're able to do a double crop. So meaning, and 1 acre gives you approximately 2.8 metric tons. So that means just by that alone, having the dam alone, we're able to do a double crop. And over and above that also, they're also able to increase the acreage. There's a potential to increase the acreage to 10,000. But currently, they've done that by an extra 5,600. So you can see by water storage, increasing water storage, we're also able to increase the area under irrigation. And at the same time, we're able to reduce the food deficit. So eventually, for the plan we have for rice, is that in the next, by 2027, we should be able to drastically reduce that by 50%, the 700,000 metric tons by 50% in terms of imports, and by 2032 we should be able to talk about zero import of rice.
Okay, I wanted to look at big projects like Galana Kulalu, for example, and if we talk about the need for food, and what then irrigation can actually do in terms of the plan for it. So we talk about dams. How long, really, if you look at a dam that would be able to essentially irrigate or provide the much needed water resource for projects such as Galana Kulalu, just as an example, how long would it take such a dam to be completed?
Practically speaking, it's approximately 2.5 years to 3 years. Like currently, we're already working on a plan of the Galana Dam. We should be doing groundbreaking anytime this year. And that will take approximately 2.5 years from the plan that the proponents. We are doing it under the PPP arrangement. So under that plan, they've given a plan of doing it within 2.5 years. This dam capacity is 350 million cubic liters. And it will be able to potentially help irrigate an acreage of around 200,000 acres.
And so what you had told us that also we would be looking at, so 200,000 acres would give you essentially 234,000 metric tons?
No, 1 acre alone gives you 2.8 metric tons. So in 1 year, 1 acre gives you 5.6 metric tons. So if you're talking about 100,000 acres, you already have 560,000 metric tons
Okay.
in a year.
So if it takes 2.5 years to complete this dam, essentially, that would then irrigate the Kulalu project, in what kind of time would we, because essentially what you're saying is that from this project, you would then be able to significantly feed Kenya.
Yeah, that's true.
And reduce, if not completely remove, the need to import food of a certain type.
Yeah, true.
So how long would it take then, after this 2.5 years of a dam having been complete, for you to realize this food that would come in from Galana Kulalu, for example?
For example, the plan is to, because also there are many other things after having the dam now. There are many other things that they also look at. This issue of the soil amendment. So the plan that is there is to start with 50,000 acres.
Okay.
Then after 1 year, having seen how the 50,000 acres, the crop pattern and everything is working, you double that in the second year. So second year probably you go to 100,000 acres. Then in the third year, you again double that. You now go to 200,000 acres. So the plan would be 50, 100, then 200. So eventually, by the third year, so you're talking about within a period of 5 years, 2.5 for dam construction, another 3 years for putting up the crop pattern.
All right. And now we talk about Galana Kulalu and other projects that are ongoing. But with all this, there is the subject of cost involved. And here is from the side of government putting up such big infrastructure and making sure that we have these dams and all that. But let's go back to the farmer, the regular smallholder farmer who depends on say, rain-fed agriculture, and we want them to tap on when it rains, it pours, floods that we keep on experiencing in the country. So in terms of the farmer, harvesting that water, storing it, and later being able to pump it into their farms. And the cost involved here would be how the government would subsidize, say, the pumps that they need, the water tanks that they need, and also just applying technology that would enable them use less water to produce more. And here we talk about drip irrigation, overhead irrigation materials that they need. So in terms of just subsidizing these for the smallholder farmer, what is the government looking at and how is it approaching that?
Yeah, so for the smallholder farmer, first of all, they're the ones, most of them, they are the ones, smallholder, they're the ones who have an acre, 2.5. The government has a very good plan whereby we put them under a community irrigation scheme. First of all, the issue, we start with even addressing the issue of water itself. So you find we tap water from probably a river or probably also do a social dam. Then we're able to pull that. We're able to put up our irrigation infrastructure up to actually where the farmer is. Then the farmer is expected now to invest a little bit in terms of not getting the water from the main pipeline to his land. So that way, what we do is that actually we come with a process where we say it's a blended finance. But we find the government is contributing probably 50% of the whole cost, and the farmer is contributing the other 50%. So that's one method. That's now where we have permanent rivers. The other areas where we probably have seasonal rivers. So we're talking about doing a water ban. Again, the government has a program. We call it a household program, whereby for those smallholder farmers who are individually now, we also do household water bans for them. Then we partner with also private sector, whereby which now that is banks who come and work together with the farmer to put the lining, which also now enhances the storage by making sure that the sustainability of that water can take you much longer. Yeah.
So approximately, PS, how many farmers do we have in the country?
We are talking about 6 million, but mostly the ones who are mainly focused on irrigation. We're talking about 300,000.
And how much would
around 5%?
How much would it cost, say, the government to reach all these farmers to ensure that these irrigation gospel gets to them?
So that's why we're saying we have a very geared plan, which is actually more informed by the water security. The farm is the plan is, for irrigation to work, the water security actually is the one that takes the lead. That's what I'm saying. In that plan, the plan that you've actually elaborated very well is the plan. Like now in the community, there's what we call community irrigation schemes. these community irrigation schemes, every year we have a plan of doing 40,000 across the country. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, recently you must have seen in Nyeri, sometimes last year, there's a project we launched. It's called Kaigonji Irrigation Scheme, whereby 1,000 farmers benefited. We've put them under one irrigation scheme. 1,000 farmers benefited. Talking about like last week, we are in Washingishu. We have a project called Lower Sabol. Again, it has 1,000 farmers all coming together. So in all parts, like we go to Kwale County, there's a project called Wagamachambe. They've actually not been able to do production for the last 8 years, but just because of the government intervention through which actually was very well elaborated in the better plan. The irrigation, actually, you look at the better plan, is clearly elaborated that is a way forward towards enabling the farmers. When you talk about the bottom-up economic approach, the one way is actually enabling the farmer being able to produce. And the farmer can only be able to produce when you enable them, when you give them an irrigation project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to look at also the ASOL areas have been an issue, a big one, when we already know geographically that they are at a disadvantage in terms of now what they're able to get in terms of water. But then also that falls under the mandate of government to then be able to make sure that, product harvest can still come from here. What are the plans or what are the implementation metrics that have been, realized here to ensure that the ASOL areas are actually then, not left out?
Okay. You realize one of the key things that the current government have done, even if you listen to His Excellency the President, in most of his speeches actually talked about the need to develop the ASAL areas. He's actually been very passionate about that, and it's clear 20% of Kenya is arable, 80% is not arable.
It's not, yeah.
The only way out is through ensuring that they have water security. And some of them, I'll give you an example, like on some of the projects that we've actually started. One of them is Wajir County. Wajir County doesn't have permanent rivers, but when it rains, there are a lot of lagers. Lagers are these seasonal rivers, which come with a lot of water, but for a short while, then after that, it goes away. So we've actually mapped all those lagers. We've actually marked almost 64 lagers. One of the biggest one is called, one of the biggest lagers in Wajir is called Labo. So we've actually mapped it, and in the next 2 months we'll be starting to build a big check dam, which will lead to an water plant of a capacity of around 750,000 cubic liters. So that will actually help us be able to do irrigated fodder, which will help a lot towards the livestock value chain in that side. Again, also we're also doing something similar. 2 months ago, we launched together with the governor of Marsabit, in partnership with the KfW, which is a UK German finance arm. We launched another project in Marsabit. Those are the plans that we are doing, making sure we have the check dams. And after that, now setting up aside for land to do fodder to support the livestock value chain. I
hear what you're saying, PS. And I think for all of this, we talk about a plan, and in terms of its implementation, then the question is that at what point, will folks be able to see that this is actually done? You talk about a dam for 2.5 years. We talk about, in the next 1 year, this and this and this will be done. I'm just looking at, the fodder for livestock fodder in that area. It just seems it's a golden opportunity for a lot of these folks who've had to sell their livestock when you get into a situation of drought in order to buy food to eat. So if you have a situation whereby they can be fed through the year, then they maintain that which they're able to, sell, breed, survive on. But without that, then they're in a detrimental situation. So it's almost as though asking government for a guarantee that these plans that are in place will actually come to fruition. Is there such a guarantee?
Yeah, so this is actually now, like the two I mentioned, is now a plan being implemented. Because first it starts with the feasibility, the pre-feasibility study, which is a part at times the impact may not be seen, but it really counts. How you cite a site, and also changing the community in terms of their mindset. That is actually the part we've been doing the last 6 months. That's what it's talked about. Now we're actually now going to the implementation. Also, there's been a lot of public participation with both leadership the members of parliament in the areas, and also the county government as a whole. So all that together, we've now been able to agree to a plan. So as I say now, in the next 2 months, it's just about starting. The one for Marsabit, that one actually is ongoing, because last year, sometimes in November, we launched the program. So, and the mindset has now been changed. So once those two work successfully, I want to believe, but the plan for the government is actually to roll 450 feedlots in the next by 2032. So we're just starting with those two main ones. Then with the success of that, as you said, the livestock value chain is actually a game changer. Will be a game changer, because you're talking about a situation where we'll also be, if we succeed in that program, we'll also be exporting meat. So as when we come in as irrigation, we just come at the lower part of it on the input. Then after that, now livestock, State Department, and trade, they also pick up on the other part. But as is first of all support on the input, that is ensuring that there is fodder for the livestock. Yeah.
PS Ephantus Kimotho is here with us this morning, and we're looking at, what happens in the next few years to ensure that, Kenya doesn't have to get into a place where, because of adverse weather conditions or whatever the case may be, that you look for or struggle to feed Kenyans or to have some storage for the nation. And we're looking at the irrigation plan and impact for our audiences that continues to stream and our audiences on KTN this morning. So as we continue, PS, looking at these plans that are in place, looking at the demands from across the nation, what is with some specificity about what's happening in different counties or different areas, whether we look at coast, whether we look at the eastern part of the country, are there, I would assume, and we've talked about it already, the ASOLs have a different need than do the coast, for example, or the western belt. What are some of the needs that you realized in some of these areas, and what are the implementation strategies for irrigation plans here to realize, at the end of the day, food, for example, or livestock preparations?
Yeah, it's true. Every county has different unique needs, and those are some of the issues we look into. Some of them, and maybe, as I said, the main thing that determines is the issue of water security. So, just as I said earlier, for the ASALs, the main thing is actually to make sure that we do a number of check dams. But in the process, as you're doing the check dams, we also at some point to experience some challenges. That is, you find when you're doing a dam, the people in the upstream always don't benefit. The people downstream are the ones who benefit. So you're also trying to come up also with some other interventions which will also help the people in the upstream to also make sure that they equally, even if they don't benefit from that water, then we also come with alternative ways, which are things like, we also try to explore things like groundwater, groundwater alternatives. Because when you do a dam upstream, then you find people downstream are the ones benefiting, but the ones near the water might not. So we're also coming up with other ways whereby we are looking at ways of how can we also explore the groundwater, so that also the people around there are also able to benefit. The other thing also, we are trying to do a mindset change. For them, the people in the ASALs also, most of them they rely on the livestock value chain. But we also know whenever there's drought, more often than not, they're always given food. We find we always go and give them food. But now we also trying to see, can we also learn to practice agro-pastoralism? So it's something that we also introduce. So whenever we do dams there, we do one dam for domestic, another one for a little bit of agriculture, and now another main one for livestock. That way now we're able to make sure the resources are well shared. Another thing that comes in, which these dams are helping, is the issue of conflict resolution. Again, people fight because of resources. People fight because of like the issue of fodder, water, and also the food. So whenever we bring these dams, we also distributing them in a way that also it resolves the issue of conflict resolution. That we make sure it is in this ward. When we do one in this ward, the other one is going to be in another different ward. So those are some of the issues that we're also doing. Then these dams are also helping a lot in climate resilience, because people who get these climate shocks, then we're able to when we build the dam, we give them ways of adaptation. So that's on now mainly on the ASAL areas. When you come to areas like now, areas like Mount Kenya, areas the highlands, where we have sufficient water. Is now the challenge again there is we have water, but again the land is in small in small portions. Maybe one has a half an acre, like in Nyeri County. You find most of the people, like the project I just mentioned, you find most of them only have half an acre.
Yeah.
And now the challenge of that again, what comes in is the issue of the market. So when we talk about when you have the smallholder production, again the issue of the market becomes a challenge, because if everyone produces, it becomes very hard to get an aggregator. So again, towards that end, what we're trying to do, we're working with the Ministry of Cooperative, State Department of Agriculture, and the county to aggregate the farmers, and also help them understand the importance of doing a particular crop enterprise, so that you're able to get an aggregator. When you get an aggregator, more often than not, who comes and guides them in terms of extension services, the quality of seeds, then they're able to produce quality products which are able to attract an aggregator. An aggregator automatically provides them with market. When you provide them with market, it's easier for them also now to also access finance.
Yeah.
So every county in one or another has a different unique challenges, and those are the challenges we're trying to address. At the same time, as we address those challenges, we're also creating a lot of jobs in the process, and also enabling the farmers put money in their pockets.
Now, when you've talked about matters to do with change that is there, but there is one change that we've all experienced, which is climate change, and which is a growing concern. Now, we have flood control and drought mitigation, all brought about by this new phenomenon called climate change. And we know President William Ruto is big on this. Africa Climate Summit is a big champion on how to address this. But in terms of addressing this from the irrigation standpoint and applying the relevant technologies to be able to address this big shock that the world over continues to deal with, I mean, how are you approaching this with positivity and finding a lasting solution to this existing problem? Because it is coming soon. How are we prepared to deal with that?
Yeah, so I think first, the issue of a flood, one way to deal with flood is through flood mitigation is through building of dikes. And through one of our state agencies called National Water. We've actually been involved in building dikes. These dikes help a lot, even at some point, even protecting our crop and also our property. So that's one way. But also, the other second way is actually now harnessing that water through now dam. And the other way, which is also very important on reducing the issue of flooding, is what we call environmental flow, environmental storage. This is where we're talking about. You remember, His Excellency the President also launched the program of 15 billion trees, which mainly is actually to help when you have when you plant trees. Like now, it also controls flooding to a very big extent, because it slows down the way the water flows. Yeah. First, some of it is held by leaves, and some of it gets to the ground. Also, it percolates downwards, which now also helps in recharging our underground water. Because we realize also over time, without the trees and without that, we may also have a challenge with our boreholes. So, if at times we do a borehole somewhere, then there's no water. So that by itself will help control and help recharge. By planting trees, it will help control the floods to some extent, and help us recharge our groundwater. So that now eventually the water that is now left, we are able to capture it through damming it. That's why now we build now the dam. So you see now that way, and the other issues is just building the dikes. So with those three interventions, then the issue of flood control will have been controlled. Then now to deal with the issue of the drought, which you just mentioned, once now you have the water there, and you utilize the water well, because again, even after you have the dam, again we also make sure that as we do the last mile connectivity, we are also monitoring it by making sure that we have metered the water, so that water is not misused.
Right.
So again now will help us towards addressing the issue of drought. And I said the plan is like in the ASALs. We're not doing, people are used to before to doing small water pans of 30,000, maximum 100,000 cubic. Those ones will only take you 2 to 3 months. But now we are doing one of 600,000 cubic. That can take you almost even 1 year. So even if the next rain season will only happen once, then you'll find it will be sustainable.
Sure.
So that's a strategy.
How are these projects being funded? Often we hear government doesn't have enough resources, government doesn't have money to do these things. Meanwhile, the need is great, around the country. So how are you funding them? I mean, off the top of my head, I would imagine that they're PPPs, but then maybe you can go into some of those details.
Yeah, so as you remember when I came, I said we have 5 investment pathways. Those investment pathways are well guided by the tenure of the land, water security, and also the funding model.
Yes.
When we talk about the big commercial farms, whereby our target is to do, I said we just mentioned Galana 200,000 acres, and Bura irrigation scheme also we are targeting another 100,000 acres. So on that is purely being funded by PPP, that is private public partnership, where the government has the land, a private party comes on board, does the dam, and at the same time invests in the production. In Galana, we are targeting approximately 112 billion, 112.5 billion in terms of the money that will be invested there. In terms of the dam, we are targeting approximately another 35 billion in terms of the money that will be invested. So that's purely investment by a private party on the commercial large scale. And there's a business case for that. That's why he's willing to do that. When we talk about the community irrigation schemes, what I said, we are doing a blended finance, whereby the government contributes 50%. Then the farmers are able to contribute the other 50%. And if they don't have the money for the 50%, we have an arrangement with some of the banks, like Equity Bank is a plan we have with them, whereby they'll fund the farmer on the 50% and recover that from the produce. So that's a plan that is also working out very well. That's on the community irrigation schemes. On the ASAL, you find the government is funding partially, then part of it you're using the climate finance. To fund it. Then we have FLEED. FLEED is whereby you have the farmer-led irrigation development. That's why it's the farmers now individually, they fund, but also the government gives them support in terms of what I said earlier, like the household water pans, and at times also we are looking at the possibilities of giving them exemption towards those who are using solarized pumps. Yeah, so that's the plan. So it's a whole mix of funding depending on the investment pathway.
So let's look at some of these private, just again, do they become bankable then for Kenya? Because when we think about a private investor coming in, then we think about the majority of profits going their way, and for how long? Are we looking at a situation whereby, in as much as it's a partnership, that they of course get profits as private investors, but what's the term that you'll be looking at, and then what is the benefit of this same partnership for Kenya?
Okay, first, like now, taking a case in example like Galana, we are doing a dam which is 35 billion. For that dam to attract, there's independent private party, and this aside, we're also doing production. We said the private party is going to invest 112 billion. For us to get the person doing the dam agreeing to do the dam, he needs an offtake guarantee of his water. So you find the government may not have the capacity of actually giving that offtake guarantee, because offtake guarantee is just like a payment. But when you have another private party on the other side saying, I'm willing to buy that water, like I said, that dam will be giving us around 350 million cubic. But because of, but in a whole year, we expect around 1 billion. Because of we expect around 1 billion. That is what will be able to irrigate the 200,000 acres. So you find out of that 1 billion, there's someone willing probably to pay something like 5 shillings for every cubic liter of water. So because of that, you find who is now the other private party. Because of that, you find out the dam will be built. But this dam, after that years, will be left to us. So you see, to me, I see that as a very big advantage, that someone has done a dam, recovered his money, and left the dam to you. So then on this other side, the private party who is coming to invest, first he's bringing foreign direct investment, which is also key to us as a country. In the process, like in particular, in that dam, he's also helping us create jobs, because though he's doing mechanization, of mechanized agriculture. At the same time, you realize that at least for every 10 acres, there's one job created. So if you're talking about 200,000 acres, we're talking about creating 20,000 jobs. So at the same time, there's a whole value chain. You can imagine irrigating 200,000 acres in terms of the input value chain. People who are bringing seeds, people who are bringing fertilizers, then also the output value chain and the agro-processing that will support. So if you look at the benefits that will accrue from that, it's a whole economic. Like, for example, by the time you're done with the 200,000 acres, it will be a Galana will be a city. It will be an agri-city. So the impact, even if the private party will make some profit, the profit that as Kenyans will have made will be much, much more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about the plan and how to address pretty much deal with food security in the country. But the biggest contributor or the biggest stakeholder in this would be that farmer, would be the locals at the grassroots level. And with this information that is domiciled under the plan, there is the fear that it has not gotten yet to the people down there. So in terms of investing energies and making sure that Kenyans understand this plan so that they collaborate with you in order to achieve this plan, how are we getting this message to Kenyans? How are you intending to achieve this if it is not getting to them in a way that they understand?
What you're doing, working closely with the county government. You realize that I think our State Department has interacted with over 30 county governments. We're working with closely with the county governments, because the county government realize they're the ones who have the mandate of essential services. So even identification of some of these programs, we work closely with them, even in identifying. And again, I said, our irrigation projects more than they're driven by the water security part. So once we identify an area that has water, we map the area, and some of this land also, some of them is community land, which is actually under the mandate of the county, or maybe the county is holding in trust. So we work closely with the county to identify. Then after that, now at that local level is where we start engaging the farmers and changing their mindset, and also showing them the benefit of water. Some of them probably have not gotten to know that benefit. Like the other day, were with a farmer who is one of the farmer in Lower Sabo. He's irrigating in 1 acre. When we met him, the farmer, he was very happy, saying that 1 acre gives her 15,000 cabbages just in 3 months.
Okay.
And he's selling that for 40 bob. So that means he generates 600,000 in a period of 3 months. So if he does that 3 times, that you're talking about 1.8. Even if we net off a few inputs here and there, the person will end up home with a clean 1 million because of that. And that that realization has come because of us taking water to that place.
Yeah.
So when there is shortage, the person is even willing to do their own borehole to make sure that they have sufficient water all through. So there is a lot of engagement that we're actually doing at the grassroots level. Yeah.
What happens to the projects which have stalled, or which stalled over time, that we look to for completion? And I think they're just as important in this whole matrix. Thwake Dam, for example, has been under construction for I don't know how long. Of course, there's a whole controversy about the Aurora and Kimotho dams, and what was happening with them and what they were supposed to do. And from what we were told, or what Kenya was told, was that, these would have been game changers in terms of, irrigation for agriculture, irrigation for, many other things, for use, community use. We know what happened, but then as they stall, are there plans to reignite them? Dams around the country, east, north, south, east, west, apart from those that you say, already in the plan, those had started before and didn't seem to really go anywhere?
And as well, just what would be the safeguards that you're putting in place to make sure that a repeat of another Kimotho does not happen?
So I'll start by the first question. The first on Thwake will be complete this year.
2025
to be complete this year.
Okay.
That's it's a dam that is under the State Department of Water, but also we also use us, because on the downstream we're using Thwake to irrigate. Thwake has a potential of irrigating 40,000 acres downstream in Makueni area, that area. So, but it's a dam that is all going to be one of the biggest dams. It has a capacity of 600 million cubic. So that is going to be complete this year. That with certainty is actually going to be complete this year. There was a small financing need, but now that has been sorted. Recently, the cabinet approved a CAB memo, which approved the additional financing to complete it. So that should be complete this year. So, and the Thwake is mainly supplying water in that whole area of that area of the area, even going all the way to Konza City. But also on the downstream, we are going to use this to do irrigation about 40,000. And it's an area that we have already mapped, and also we are engagement with the Makueni County on the same. So that's one. So you also talked about Kimorel Dam.
Yes.
So there's a conversation ongoing about that particular dam. So again, we expect something to happen in the probably before the end of this close of this particular financial year. But again, another dam that has been ongoing for a while is called Soimorunyi in West Pokot. Again, that dam will be complete by June. His Excellency the President has actually put a lot of effort towards enabling some of those dams which are to have been sold, to making sure that they are now on course for people to actually unlock the benefits. As you said, it's true the benefits of those dams were populated to be such huge benefits. So now we're going to start benefiting from that. So Soimorunyi has a capacity of around 8.9 billion cubic. It's going to help people over Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Trans Nzoia. So it's going to be a very, very useful dam. Again, also on the downstream, we also going to irrigate 3,500 acres. Then we have the Mwache Dam, which was recently, His Excellency the President broke ground sometimes in April 2023. Is also moving on very well. I think when I joined the State Department, it was at 4%. Right now, as we talk overall, it's at 20%. It's expected to be complete by Feb 2027. But the lower check dam, because it has like 3 dams just to control silt. We have the upper check dam with around 600,000 cubic liters. Then you have the lower check dam, which has around 8 million cubic liters. Then now the main dam, which is 136 million cubic, which is actually be helping a lot towards providing water in the coastal region. Coastal region has a big challenge of water. They're only able to have sufficiency water of 25%. So it will come and cover the gap of the 75%.
Yeah.
But the lower check dam will be complete by June this year. And the lower check dam, once it's complete, it is going to help us do irrigation of around 1,000 acres. So you can say with certainty this year we'll have Twake Dam complete.
Yes.
We'll have Soimorunyi Dam complete. And also we'll have the lower check dam of part of Mwache complete this year. Yeah, and also this year also we're expecting to break ground on Galana Dam, which I've mentioned, which has around 350 million cubic. And also there's Bosto Dam in Bomet, which again has approximately will help us provide water in that whole of Kericho and Bomet County, and at the same time it will help us irrigate 14,000 acres. So I can say we are actually on course in terms of now actual reality in terms of the dam. So there are those 3 which will be complete, and there are the 2 which will be groundbreak. Then there are many others which are the feasibility study level, which you intend to do them under the PPP. Yeah.
Okay. And the checks and balances that you're putting in place as a State Department in making sure that a repeat of what we saw in Kimorel and Arod does not happen.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, like now at the moment, because of the financial constraint, most of these dams now we are doing them under PPP.
PPPs.
So from what you're doing from the government side, we actually trying to acquire the land. That's the main thing. We're acquiring the land. So the others now we're actually doing them under PPP. So in the PPP now we have to look at the viability, commercial viability. So I don't think in that perspective and that we may not have space of having a challenge, any challenge. Yeah.
What do you hope to see? I mean, let's look at 2025. We could talk about 2.5 years. We can talk about, by the time 2030 rolls around. What would satisfy you to say that, yes, indeed, in terms of this development for Kenya in the next 11 months, at the end of 2025, seeing certain things done would say, yes, we've checked that and it's actually working?
First, I think I'll say I'll be happy to see, when I talked about Galana, maybe what I didn't say is that these are 20,000, apart from the 200,000 acres. Within the 200,000 acres, there's 20,000 which you can do without a dam. Just with the normal river flow. There's 20,000 acres which you can do without a dam. And you have a local private party who will be starting production next month. So we'll be having our first crop in May.
Okay.
So, but even the 20,000, he'll also start in bits. He'll probably start with 3,000, then double to 6, like that, until at some point, maybe by the time the dam is being complete, he'll have achieved the 20,000. So we are looking at that first crop of probably 3,000 starting off this year.
Yeah.
So that we now will be able to see that Galana is a success story. After the trials which were done, because we did trials on 500 acres and 1 acre comfortably was able to give that 5 bags. So even in worst case scenario, you're talking about 1 acre producing 30 bags. So in 1 year doing 2 seasons, you're talking about 60 bags.
Yeah.
So that I can say, if that happens, and is going to happen, because already everything, the concession agreement has been signed, and the currently is just doing preparations, and from Feb, he's hitting the ground running. From May, we'll be talking about the first crop. So that I can say we'll have ticked a box and say we have succeeded.
Absolutely.
The next thing still on Galana is a groundbreaking of Galana Dam. Once we groundbreak, we'll know now for sure we can cite the balance of the 180,000, and also you can say we'll have attracted a foreign direct investment. Some will be saying we also have secured a number of jobs for our country, and we'll also have been said that we're on the route to addressing the issue of food security almost 100%.
Fantastic.
So the other issue that we look at is a Bura irrigation scheme. We have 100,000 acres, and in there we have 5 key investors. We have 5 key investors who have expressed interest. So most of them we are giving them trials. That trials on a block of 700 acres. So I'm looking at in the next 3 or so months, them starting to do the trials. After they do the trials, and then in the next 6 months they'll be able to start production. Then coming to the community irrigation schemes, we have quite a number of them running. Currently, the ones which are going on, we've accumulated the number of acres that they're going to give us is going to be 44,000 acres. So we are looking at completing all of them. And at the same, after completing all of them, aggregating the farmers into a cooperative and getting them and connecting them with the aggregators for them to get market. Then lastly, on the ASALs, we are looking at a solution whereby the dams that we've talked about, the check dams, will be open, and we start producing fodder for livestock. Those are things we are looking at in the next 1 year.
As they happen, please do come back and let us know that they've happened, and it'll be great to be able to see those. Thank you for being here this morning. The Principal Secretary in the State Department for Irrigation, CPA Ephantus Kimotho, has been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for being here to give us an update in terms of what's happening. It would be great to see these things occur, and then we can be able to check on them in the future. Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.